Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome back everyone to our penultimate lecture. Inshallah, we're nearing the end of the poem and in this module. So today's class, we're going to take the next two sections, which is Bab al-Munasakha. This is basically going to deal, it's an extension of the portions section that we did in the last class, in the sense that what happens if somebody who is supposed to inherit dies before they inherit. So then we have another inheritance case. So if somebody dies and leaves two children, two boys, for example, the two boys are going to inherit half and half, but then one of the boys dies before they get their half, and then that boy has children, for example. So how do we put these things two together? The reason it's called an munasakha from naskha, from abrogation, is that some shares might abrogate other shares, etc. This is going to take us from line 153 to line 160. What I'm going to do in this section is what I did in the last class, which I'm going to read the lines Arabic, English, and then I'm going to go to my paper and my example book, and we're going to map out one or two. One of them is simple. The second one is quite complex because people keep dying in the example. I think I'm only going to go one level of death. And then the next section after that is al-khuntha, al-mushkil, al-mafqud, wal-haml. It deals with all these four things. What happens if somebody that inherits is a hermaphrodite? Al-khuntha. What if they are mushkil, meaning they are, we don't know which gender there are in the Sharia. There are two different categories, so we're going to talk about that. A mafqud, the person who is absent or gone, missing. What haml, and what happens if a woman dies? What happens if a woman is pregnant and then the child dies? Do we deal with it as a boy or a girl? And that's going to sort of kind of get us close to the end of the section. Of the poem. So the first bulk of the poem, the Munasakha, it's going to be similar to what we did yesterday, but because we've done that, it's going to be a little bit easier because I want to just give you the example. You don't have to memorize the example, but I just want you to see with your eyes how things can keep going forward in the inheritance equation. So those are the main topics that we'll talk about. We'll begin this discussion in the next clip, inshallah. All right, so we're going to begin the way we always begin, which is to turn to the text, because this is a text-based program. I'm a text-based teacher, and alhamdulillah, I made the effort to provide the translation, and we don't want to lose the original text and the translation, even if at times, like in this particular module, I'm veering away in the last class and this class, just to give you the examples. But I want you to know that the text, and I want you to be able to access the text at some point, because it's important. Okay, so I'll read the Arabic lines, 153 to 160, they're not too many. Arabic, English, and then we'll do the commentary kind of away from Al-Mardini's explanation, and I'll just give you the examples. I think it's just easier. قال المصنف رحمه الله ونفعنا بعلومه في الدارين آمين. Line 153. So Imam al-Rahib, he says, may Allah have mercy on him, and may we benefit from his knowledge in this world and the next. وإن يمت آخر قبل القسمة فصحح الحساب وأعرف سهمه. And if a person dies before their distribution, make the shares just and know his or her proper division. Maybe it should be their proper division. 154 وَاجْعَلْ لَهُ مَسْأَلَةً أُخْرَى كَمَا قَدْ بُيِّنَ التَّفْصِيلُ فِيمَا قُدِّمَ. And state for them, the new person that's passed away, a fresh inheritance question, as it has been explained in what precedes. So basically, what the last section we took about in the Hisab section, we're just going to follow it through. So it's kind of like long division, it just keeps going. وإن تكن 155 وإن تكن ليست عليها تنقسم فارجع إلى الوفق بهذا قد حكم. If the share cannot be divided amongst their heirs equally in the new case, then go back and check the compatibility as enacted. So if the person dies, if a person dies and he was supposed to get a half, and then the person after him that's going to inherit is also going to in a half, he's just going to take that person's half. It's just it just slides over because it's easy. Obviously, it's usually not that clean. So when it's not that compatible, like we took in the hisab section before and in the share section in the last lecture, we're going to have to just do the equation with this and now replace the person who has passed away with the new people and then make a new calculation. And I'll show you that inshallah. 156. وانظر فإن وافقت السهام فخذ هديت وفقها تماما. And consider if the shares agree, take them, you are right, the quantity is complete. As I said, if it's like the example I was giving, if it's a half and a half, well, they're fine. If not, then you're going to have to calculate. 157. واضربه أو جميعها في السابقة إن لم تكن بينهما موافقة. And mix it or all of them into the preceding, meaning take the new situation and calculate it with the old situation if there not be an agreement between the numbers. 158. وكل سهم في جميع ثانية يضرب أو في وفقها علاني عفوا. Let me read that again. 158. وكل سهم في جميع ثاني يضرب أو في وفق علاني. And every share into the aggregate of the second is mixed or into the whole quantity manifestly. 159. واسهم الأخرى ففي السهام تضرب أو في وفقها تمامي. And the new shares into the former shares are blended or into the entire quantity. 160. فهذه طريقة المناسخة فرق بها رتبة الفضل شامخة. And this is the method of munasakha, mount then by it the lofty degrees of excellence. Okay, so the question before us is what happens if people die, if somebody dies and leaves inheritors and one of those people who inherits dies before they inherit, then what happens with that person's share? That's basically the concept that we're trying to solve. So, an example that he gives, the Mardini gives, is that a woman dies and leaves a husband, a mother, and an uncle. The husband gets, the calculation is that it's going to be out of 6. So the husband gets a half, which is 3 shares. The mother's going to get a third, which is 2 shares. And then the uncle gets the rest, which is one out of the shares. So it's a total pot of 6. The husband gets 3, the mother gets 2, the uncle gets 1. But what happens if the husband dies and then the husband has left 3 children, like from another marriage? Those 3 children are going to take the husband's, the man who just, their father, who was the husband in the first inheritance situation, is going to take those 3 shares. Because there's nobody else to inherit. The 3 boys are going to take everything, and everything are the 3 shares of their father who just died. So that's a clean example. Obviously, it's usually not that simple. Well, maybe it is sometimes that simple, but obviously for our cases, we need to make it a little bit more complicated. So because those numbers are muwafaqa, they are the same, it's a simple scenario, simple calculation. So let me just go to the book and give you guys an example that we can work through together. Again, bear with me, I'm kind of low tech, so everything is by hand. I did want a whiteboard, but I couldn't find one at home in time when I was recording this. Okay, so the following situation, I'm going to speak right and then keep showing you like I did in the last class. A man dies leaving a wife, a daughter from another marriage, and an uncle. The wife gets 1/8, the daughter gets 1/2, and then the uncle is an ayn asaba, he gets the rest. So this inheritance case is out of 8. The wife gets 1 portion of the 8. The daughter is going to get 4, because it's a half. And then the uncle gets the rest, which is a 3. So it looks like this. The man died leaving the wife, a daughter, an uncle. I put you the fractions. When we add those fractions, we know that 8 is the denomination that we need. and then this is the distribution of that. So it's a very straightforward case. Okay, so we've taken that multiple times. And again, I'm going to keep apologizing, but my handwriting, I know it's bad. Now, the daughter dies. So because a lot of this is in Arabic, we usually just put a ta next to it, tuwfiyat, she died. And when you read the Arabic or an Arabic, I mean, you could put D for death, but I don't know. You guys can know. It's just one letter. This means that now the daughter is going to die. Now in this case, this daughter has left a husband and a son. The husband is going to get 1/4, and then the husband is an asaba, he'll get the rest. So it's like long division. So now we said that this daughter has died. So now we're dealing with the inheritance situation of this daughter who has died before she received her inheritance share from the previous case. And she's left a husband and a son, and we've added the fractions for them. So now dealing with that individual case in when this daughter, who is a woman who has died, leaving the husband and the son, this is going to be out of 4. The husband gets 1, and then the son gets 3. So we just treat it like its own inheritance case. The pot is 4. The husband is going to get 1. The son is going to get 3 because this daughter, who is now a woman, has died. So now we have the original inheritance case, and now we have the second inheritance case. Now, the problem is that the daughter in the first inheritance case did not receive the inheritance. Nobody received the inheritance, because when people die, it's not like they automatically get the money, unless it's kind of scripted that way in modern finance. Like sometimes if you have in America and in the West, they have accounts that are held joint tenants by the entirety. So if I have a bank account that I share with my wife and it's tenants by the entirety, it's her account and my account. When I die, there's nothing that has to go over to it because it's her account. And sometimes you can script things that way. Let me comment on that in the next clip, inshallah. I just was kind of making a little tangent about that inheritance monies are not always distributed. The state is not always distributed right away. Sometimes you can list it that it's an automatic thing, like modern savings accounts, retirement accounts, beneficiaries. But still, to be honest, there's still a period of time. It's not like instantaneous. There's still a period of time where it has to happen. So in this case, coming back to our example, the original case is a man died. He left a wife, a daughter, and an uncle. But then, unfortunately, his daughter died before she received it. And who has left the daughter? Who did the daughter leave behind? She left a husband and a son. So now we have to put those two categories together. So now who is inheriting? The wife and the uncle from the original case, and then the husband and the son of the new case. Now, to make that work, we're going to have to increase the pot to 8. The husband, the wife of the first, I might have misspoken. The first case now is the wife and the uncle. The wife is still going to get 1 share. The uncle is going to get the 3 shares. The husband of the new case is going to get his 1 share, and then the son is going to get the 3 shares. Like this. So we slide over now, and in this column, we're calculating these two together. And the example in the book, this is a simple example where we don't have to change the numbers. We've just increased the pot to 8 because now we have to accommodate these new people who are inheriting 4 shares total according to their inheritance distribution. Okay? So, this is a simple example. of the inheritance of what happens in the munasakha case. Now, the other example I'm just going to show it to you. There's two sets of people dying. I mean, you can see it's pretty wild. I think I'm only going to do two of them. One person dying, as in the first one. So we see the example. Let me just get a fresh sheet of paper so that we are not confused. Okay, in this example, a man dies leaving a wife, a mother, sister, a daughter. So we just list them first. I'm going to do it piecemeal. A wife, a mother, a sister, a daughter. Now, if the man dies leaving these people, the wife is going to inherit 1/8, because there's a child. The mother inherits 1/6. The sister is an asaba. And then the daughter gets 1/2. So we have an 1/8, a 1/6, the asaba of the sister, meaning she'll take what's left, and then the daughter, who's going to get 1/2. Now, doing the math of these fractions, the lowest denomination we have, it's going to be out of 24 to accommodate the fractions. So then the wife gets 3 shares, the mother gets 4 shares, the sister Afwan is going to get 5 shares, and then the daughter is going to get 12, just half of 24. So the pot is now out of 24, and then we just take those fractions and we apply them to that, and then these are the shares of they're going to get. Pretty straightforward. Now in this case, the wife unfortunately has died before she's able to inherit. So we just put a ta there, or you can put a d for death. But this person now has died before the inheritance has been distributed. So you know now, as a trained faqih, you have to go to the munasakha section, which is what we're talking about. And now we have to create a new set of discussion point, a new inheritance equation. Who did the wife leave behind? So in this case, the wife left behind a daughter and a son, meaning from another marriage. So, the tarika, the estate was very delayed in being distributed to accommodate for the time for all of those things to happen. So we're going to put a son, a daughter, and the new husband. So this woman, who's the wife, has died before she received this inheritance, and these are the people that she left behind. So now we're going to deal with the wife here, who's now the woman who has died and left these people behind. We know, based on our simple calculation, that the son and the daughter together are an asaba, an ayn, and then the husband gets 1/4. Sorry, my ayn looks kind of bad, but there's an ayn here, the asaba, the son and daughter, and then the husband is going to get 1/4 of this pot. Now, in this inheritance case where there's a woman here who has left these people behind, the whole number that we need is going to be 4, because the son is going to get 2 portions to the daughter's 1 portion, and then the husband gets 1 portion, which is a 4. So in this individual, forget about this one, just this individual one, the son is going to get 2, and then the daughter gets 1, and then the husband gets 1. So we know that this one is out of 4. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, in the previous case, the wife got 3 portions. The people that inherited from the wife now are 3 people, but we need 4 portions. So now we need to increase the pot, and I'm just going to just do the math, to 96. So now when we put these two together, we have to increase it to 96 using the math that we learned in the previous lecture of the multiplication of the people and the shares. So now the mother of the original case is going to inherit 16 shares, which is her 1/6 of the previous share. The sister from the original case is going to inherit 20. The daughter in the original share is going to inherit 51. And then, sorry. And the son is going to, did I make a mistake? The wife died. So the mother from the original case gets 16. Her sister in the original case is going to get 20. The daughter oh, okay. I see what I did wrong. Sorry. In this example, this daughter is this same daughter, but she has a new son. I made a mistake. Sorry. So she left behind a daughter. I forgot to mention that. And then she has one new son. So the daughter takes the 51, and then the son is going to take 6, and the husband is going to take 3. So it's going to look like that. I should have put the daughter first, so the daughter and the daughter are the same people. Now in this case, they go even further to say that the full sister of this case also dies later, but I'm going to stop there because we're over time, and let me wrap this up in the next clip, inshallah. Okay, so hopefully all of that's clear to you through those two examples. This is simply an extension of what we did in yesterday's class. There's nothing different other than we have to, it's like I just think of it as long division. We have to keep going because the people die before the inheritance. But we're still stuck with the same basic question. Well, how do we put the inheritance shares together when there is some kind of discrepancy in the shares, or one person ends up not inheriting, or the fractions don't work together? How do you basically increase the pot, which is what we were talking about yesterday when we have incongruent or unequal numbers? It's the same basic idea, and in maybe more live sessions when we get to it, we could just do problem after problem after problem until the qawa'id, until the rules stick. Okay, next we're going to read 161 to 164. There's only 4 lines. It's pretty straightforward. And because there's only 4 lines, I'm just going to read them in the Arabic and then we'll comment on the English. قال رضي الله عنه ونفعنا بعلومه في الدارين آمين. وإن يكن في مستحق المال خنثى صحيح بين الإشكال. And if there be amongst the claimants of the estate a real hermaphrodite, removing all doubts, فَاقْسِمْ عَلَى الْأَقَلِّ وَالْيَقِينِ تَحْظَى بِحَقِّ الْقِسْمَةِ وَالتَّبْيِينِ. Distribute to the less evident and to the certain, thus will you do justice in the distribution. وَاحْكُمْ عَلَى الْمَفْقُودِ حُكْمِ الْخُنْثَى إِنْ ذَكَرَ يَكُونُ أَوْ هُوَ أُنْثَى. Use the same formula as that of a hermaphrodite. Use the same formula of a hermaphrodite for a missing person, whether male or female. And then 164, وهكذا حكم ذوات الحمل فَابْنِ عَلَى الْيَقِينِ وَالْأَقَلِّ. And this is the rule of pregnant women, which is founded on certainty and the less evident. So this is, you'll hear the word certainty a lot. Which is basically one of the meta principles of the madhab. الْيَقِينُ لَا يَزُولُ بِالشَّكِّ, that certainty is not cancelled by doubt. وَأَقَلُّ, we build on أَقَلُّ الْيَقِين. What is the least amount of certainty? That's what we're going to build on. Now, we have two terms, the khuntha and the mushkil. The khuntha, the hermaphrodite, is somebody who is born with both sexual organs. Usually, they are going to lean towards one or not, or versus another. And there are basically a protocol. I remember one writing of it that's very clear is a Suyuti in Al-Ashbah wal-Nadha'ir. I think I might have quoted that even when we did Fiqh, when we came to that section, is that how is a corrective type of surgery supposed to take place at birth? As soon as is humanly possible, as is safe for the child, that we're going to look at the features, chromosomal features, physical features, so on and so forth, to see which gender the child leans towards, and then that is determined to be the dominant gender, etc. So that's what a hermaphrodite is. The mushkil is somebody who is less certain, who might not have any sexual organs at all, and therefore we're not sure at all. So it's even less, but over time they can be caused to determine. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to see what the least amount of inheritance share is and use that as the basis in the following way. So let's say a man dies leaving a son and a khuntha and a hermaphrodite. Now if there are two boys, they're just going to take half and half. If she's a girl, he's going to take double the portion of the girl. So the boy is going to get a half because he's a full boy, male, that's not a problem. But the hermaphrodite we will treat as right now as a girl, so she'll take half of the share of the brother, but then there's still a sixth left, which in case she turns out to be a boy, then she'll get that sixth. So the brother will only take, the full boy will only take half, because maybe this is the other hermaphrodite is a boy. But the hermaphrodite as an individual person, we will consider a girl. So in that case, she will take half of the half, which leaves the sixth, in case it turns out to be a boy. So that's what he means by going on the lesser amount and building on doubt. So, I might have misstated that. Let me say that again. فيقتل الخنثى أنثى في الحق نفسه فيأخذ الثلث فقط. So the hermaphrodite being considered a girl will take a third. That's what I misspoke. And then just in case it turns out to be a boy, they'll take the other portion that they didn't take, which is the sixth. Now another example, if you leave behind a brother, a full brother, and a child, a sibling from the mother that is a mushkil or hermaphrodite. In this case it doesn't matter, because that child from the mother is only going to take a sixth, boy or girl. So in that case you don't have to block, or you don't have to hold in abeyance any of the shares. You're going to give that person their full sixth. So you have to look at the case in the distribution. If the boy or girl gender impacts, we're going to consider it in the way that the lesser amount in that person's case, and hold the other amount in case they were a full person, just in case some kind of corrective surgery or something will take place in the future. But if the gender difference does not make a difference, then it doesn't make a difference. They're going to get the portion regardless of their gender. The same thing for the person who is absent. So somebody who has been gone for too long. So a man dies and he leaves two sons. One of them is missing. the person that's the boy that's here now will get half, and then the other half is held in abeyance in case the other son shows up. So it's kind of the same thing. For the boy that's here, for the son that's here, we're going to act like the other boy is alive, because that's the least amount, which means he will only take half, not the whole. And for the boy that's missing, we will consider him what's the least amount as missing, so we'll hold his half in case they show up. And sometimes this has to be determined by the court. So this is again a situation that comes from an extension of al-yaqinu la yazulu bil-shak. Certainty does not cancel doubt, and the least amount is where yaqeen is going to be. So then therefore we're going to take our marching orders from the least amount. So even in the case of the two boys, one of them is missing, the boy that's around, the least amount he can take is half, not a whole. So that's also another part of the situation. And then the same thing with a pregnant woman, for the child that she bears, if the child dies or the woman dies and the child is yet to be born, we are going to follow the same type of rules when it comes to taking the least amount. So a man dies leaving a pregnant woman. So if she was not pregnant, she would take a fourth, meaning if there's no child, she would take a fourth. And if she has a child, she's going to inherit an eighth from the nas of the Quran. So she's given an eighth because the less amount, and then the missing portion is held to see if she's going to give birth or not. That's basically an example of how we would talk about it. Okay, so we have one last lecture left, which is to talk about the people that al-gharqa, people that die drowning and by fire and things like that. If you don't know who the heirs are, and then he will conclude with some lines of poetry. And in my book, in the Mardini commentary, he has a couple of on mulhaq, some scenarios that are worth us considering that might not have been covered by all the lines of poetry. And then that will really be the conclusion of the text, of the Rahabiyya text, as well as a conclusion of the poem itself. I hope that I haven't overwhelmed you with the math. I think with a pre-recorded class, this is the best that we can do. But from my experience, the inheritance stuff, it just needs practice. After you know the rules, you just got to practice problem after problem after problem. And like the book that I have, in the end, it's just all practice problems with explanations. It's like literally like a math textbook. That's really what you're going to end up getting, and that's how you learn all the rules. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, in our penultimate class, we were able to take the section of the munasakha, which is a discussion of what happens when somebody who is supposed to inherit dies before they receive their inheritance. And I liken this sort of to basically long division. So we have to extend out the inheritance equation. And I gave you a couple of examples that we used. I used my notepad to sketch out for you, and we learned that sometimes it's clean, and the second set of inheritors are going to inherit the exact same share as the person who died. So then there's no math that's needed. But oftentimes I would say it's not clean, and therefore you have to use the discussion that we had in yesterday's lecture and the lecture before on the calculation to be able to increase the pot by a certain ratio to make sure that all of the people now that are going to inherit are going to inherit. So we spent the bulk of the time talking about that. And then in the second section we talked about the inheritance of the hermaphrodite, the mushkil, the person that doesn't have any of the sexual organs, so it's problematic, literally problematic, because we don't know the gender, a person who is missing and a person who is pregnant, a woman who is pregnant. And the upshot of all of that is we are going to always take the least amount in considering inheritance. So for the person who is not confused or not a hermaphrodite, we are going to assume, for the sake of safety, that the other person, like in case of a sibling, is the fuller portion, affecting this person's share, so they will inherit less. And then the other person, we will consider the lesser of the two inheriting shares, in which case they will actually get less, and then the differential is held in abeyance until something is clear. And that's basically what we're going to follow for all of those examples. That's why it's considered in one section, and then that way is clear, which means that there needs to be, those corrective type of surgery things have to take place, and some kind of determination at some point needs to happen, so we know what we're dealing with. Those are the main topics we talked about. I mean, it's not so much of the text, but they are filled with principles, and hopefully they build on the things that we've been taking before. We have one last lecture which will wrap up the poem, and there are some extra comments in the Mardini translation that are worth talking about. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.